What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So when you know it, an hour after Newswave went up yesterday, a Direct was announced. Not like a smaller one, not like a Direct Mini or a partner showcase. No, a full 50-minute Nintendo Direct was announced on Twitter. The hype levels went through the roof, and we're going to talk about that here today, mostly because I figure many of you are probably just killing time until the Direct happens later on today, so you may want to talk about it in the comments, bounce some ideas around about what you would like to see in the presentation. Also, we're going to be talking about Microsoft's newest accessory, one that people have been hoping that they would introduce for their Xbox console for a little while now. And we're going to talk about Google Stadia because, once again, it's Google Stadia being Google Stadia. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass. They have continued, that being Microsoft, to add game after game, multiple times even in a month, to the service. And it has grown to being basically the best value in gaming today. And once again, here we are with some pretty good additions. Let's head over to their website where they have a nice card here showing all of the different games in one place. And we're going to go through a couple of dates, starting with Code Vein. This is on February 18th, that being for PC. Then we have Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire Ultimate Edition. That's cloud and console. And we have Wreckfest, cloud, console, and PC. Moving up to February 23rd, we have Killer Queen Black on cloud and console. And then moving to February 25th, we have Dirt 5, cloud, console, and PC. And Elite Dangerous for console. And then we have Super Mind Control Delete for PC on February 25th to round things out. Now, looking at this, it's pretty solid stuff. Pillars of Eternity 2 being put into Game Pass is great because I feel like there are a lot of people who were going through the Xbox store, maybe saw it and said, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to like that game. I'm not going to buy it right now, but it being into Game Pass gets that kind of, oh, I just have to press a button and download it kind of thought process. So you may see quite a few people try out the Pillars of Eternity franchise for the first time. Great to see. And Dirt 5 is not that old, just a few months actually. So seeing that get thrown into Game Pass already is also really good. Just once again, solid additions to the service. Also, remember how we talked a little while ago about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas being ported to the Vita, and there was this really cool image of like the progress and the frame rate that they showed off for it at least working. It wasn't the best at the time, but they were able to actually move it over, something that Rockstar still has not done, even for the Switch, which is weird, but it looks like that is extending a bit further with Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City now being reverse engineered under the name RE3 and REVC for Vice City, obviously, but it being reverse engineered, and you can see some of the screenshots here, means several things. It could be ported to different consoles, as GBA Temp points out, to Nintendo Switch, PlayStation Vita, and the Wii U, which the Wii U has a very solid modding scene behind it, really cool. And they can add things like widescreen support, debug menu, improved rendering. They even have like a full checklist of stuff they want to be able to do, which includes things like no loading screens between islands. So I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it many, many times going forward. If the companies like Rockstar, Take-Two, aren't going to do it, fans will. Oh, and I like to try to keep you guys up to date on some of the different sales that are coming up or happening on like the eShop or the PlayStation Store as examples. Well, it looks like Nintendo is getting geared up for a fairly large eShop sale. If we go over here to Nintendo of Europe, they say big savings are coming your way when our digital deal sale starts this Thursday, and we can see digital deals up to 75% off starting February 18th. Kind of coincides actually with that Nintendo Direct today. Interesting stuff there. And a lot of times you'll see the different sales take place in one region, and then we'll see kind of a sale pop up in another region as well to go alongside of it. So we'll see here, but at the very least, Nintendo of Europe, you might want to check that out on that eShop, I guess tomorrow, up to 75% off for some games. Could be some pretty good deals. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with the Nintendo Direct that's going to be taking place later on today. Let's head over to Twitter, where Nintendo dropped this at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Like I said, just 1 hour after Newswave went up yesterday, where they say, tune in February 17th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That'd be 5 p.m. Eastern for a Nintendo Direct live stream featuring roughly 50 minutes of information focused on available games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and games coming to Nintendo Switch in the first half of 2021. Now, it's been a little while since we've had a Nintendo Direct, which means naturally people would get really, really excited. Also, there's the fact that no one was expecting this. Like, I didn't see any real direct talk around a full-blown Nintendo Direct at all. We were talking about like, oh, third-party partner showcases or maybe a Direct Mini, but a 50-minute Nintendo Direct. no one saw that one coming. So naturally, the hype is through the roof. If you go to like the page right now for that Nintendo Direct, there were thousands of people already just kind of hanging out, ready to go for this thing, and it's probably even more right now as this video goes live, I'm sure. It's been a while since we've had that Nintendo Direct, so much so that there's been a Twitter account actually tracking how many days. You can see this here, where they say, here we are, the last main Direct was on September 4th, 2019. 531 days later, a new Direct announcement was made for tomorrow, February 17th. And just to refresh your memory on the Direct that is being referred to here, this was back, like I said, September 4th, 2019. You can see the Direct actually here a bit. That's the one that opened with Overwatch. Yeah, opened with Overwatch, and it closed out with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. It's been a while, 531 days, about a year and a half, but here we are now, finally, with the next Nintendo Direct. So the good thing is there are a few things we can take from this tweet to kind of give us an idea as to what we can expect later on today. A Smash Brothers character, that seems pretty clear at this point, but an update could also mean maybe another Fighter's Pass, maybe some other mode coming to it, who knows there. But I also want to point out that they mentioned games for the first half of this year mostly. They could still throw something in there for the holiday if they have like Breath of the Wild 2 planned out and just put a year on it like 2021. But for the most part, I think we should be looking more short term for the games being announced, maybe up to the latest being July. And I also want to point out that just because it is 50 minutes, that is a while. Like, that is a long Direct. I don't remember the last time we had a Direct that long. Seriously, even like the E3 Directs were like 35 or 40 minutes. 50 minutes tells me they're probably focusing or honing in on something like the Smash character that gets announced. They could actually show off quite a bit about it. Maybe if there is more Smash news, they could go over there. This could literally be a Nintendo Direct and a Smash Direct kind of just put together, and that's why it's 50 minutes. Otherwise, maybe Nintendo wants to talk about a certain game or an update to a game like Animal Crossing. So just because it's 50 minutes, don't expect it to necessarily be like tons more announcements or anything. It could just be them kind of spending a bit more time on one section. But I do expect Nintendo to have quite a bit to tell us about here in this presentation. So exciting stuff. I will be live streaming it, so come on by the channel later on today, and we should have a lot of fun seeing what Nintendo has in store for us for 2021. Next up, let's talk about the new accessory from Microsoft, that being a headset. Now, we saw Sony release their Pulse 3D headset alongside of the PlayStation 5, and I've seen a lot of people curious why Microsoft didn't have their own headset ready to go or announced or anything. I think the last headset they had was starting the Xbox One. It was like wired, like these big cans you would put on your ears, like this big headset, but it really didn't provide any additional features or anything. Well, Microsoft fixed that one yesterday after announcing these headphones right here, this being the Xbox wireless headset. Now, a few things they describe on the initial website when you go there: direct pairing to console, exceptional sound, light and flexible, available March 16th, 2021, and they have it as an MSRP of $99.99. Some of the features described in their press release show Xbox wireless pairing for the console, as well as Bluetooth pairing if you have like a Windows PC or your smartphone or something, but you can apparently sync it to the Xbox and then also sync it to Bluetooth, and it'll pull in both signals, which is pretty cool, I guess, if you want to listen to music or something while you're playing your game. It will be usable with the Xbox One, Series X, Series S, Windows PC, and mobile devices. It does mention that the retractable microphone has an auto mute and is best-in-class audio, and for battery life has up to 15 hours, but if it is completely drained, about 30 minutes of charge time will give you 4 hours of battery life. Otherwise, if you're going to let it charge the full way, about 3 hours. Now, they show several different screenshots, including a menu inside of the Xbox OS. So that's the biggest thing here. While we have Astros, for example, Turtle Beaches and all of these, the fact that this is created by Microsoft and will even be updated as they go along, similar to what your controller is, then that would give better compatibility and extra features since they know what headset you'd be using that in. They've also taken things like from the Surface line and add that in where you kind of twist the earpiece to turn up the volume and all this. So I like what I'm seeing here, though. $100 is a very compelling price, and I'm only curious about where they would have had to have done cutbacks, whether it's the audio, because they say best-in-class audio, which I guess means it would be for headsets $100 or less? Does that mean that the quality is good, or is it okay? What about the overall build of it? Is it easy to break? These are questions that I have here. And then naturally, is the battery life actually 15 hours, or is it in like the real world, like 10 hours? So a lot of questions there, but I like what I'm seeing. And you know what? I think I'm going to pick one of these up to check out, and I'm sure I'll talk about it either in a video or on the podcast that weekend. Next up, let's talk about Google Stadia being Google Stadia. They've had a rough couple of weeks, haven't they? They shut down their internal studios. Jade Raymond leaves all of this in just a random blog post one day that confused everyone, including their own subreddit. Then we saw Terraria get canceled because the co-owner, co-developer couldn't get to their email address for Gmail, and it's been bad so far. But now we have an article popping up that makes it head-scratchingly bad once again. If this was for like a company like Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony, I think it would be a massive, massive story. But it's Stadia, so everyone's like, yeah, it's Google. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Check this out here. This is from Kotaku, saying Stadia leadership praised development studios for great progress just 1 week before laying them all off. That sounds super awkward. But the real interesting piece of information here comes from a Q&A that was apparently had from Phil Harrison with the staff that I guess got laid off here. In his Thursday Q&A with staff, he pointed specifically to Microsoft's buying spree and planned acquisition of Bethesda software later this year as one of the factors that had made Google decide to close the book on original game development. Google's parent company, Alphabet, is a nearly $1 trillion company and roughly on par with Microsoft when it comes to revenue and profit. That is very weird. I don't know how Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax or Bethesda would then affect your own internal studios. That doesn't really make sense. Now look, Stadia and xCloud, and I guess Luna, if you want to throw that in from Amazon, obviously are competing, right? That's the biggest thing for cloud streaming games and all of this. And I don't know, maybe Stadia looked at that and said, well, that's that. Throw the towel in. We're not going to be creating games that are going to compete with Microsoft for their game studios if it includes ZeniMax and Bethesda, but they haven't made anything anyway. So like, we don't even know what quality of games they were going to create. I'm kind of leaning towards their games actually being kind of bad internally, and they took a look at it and said, this isn't gonna work, guys, and it's gonna take more than a year. Yeah, we thought it would take like 10 months or something to get a game out. I genuinely think that could have been a thought process by Google, because they would have tried this out like they do with other projects and been like, this is costing more money, this is taking longer than we thought. Yeah, let's just kind of move on from here, because to then point to Microsoft buying Bethesda and ZeniMax as like one of your big reasons for shutting it all down, that's just throwing in the white flag. But again, it's Google Stadia being Google Stadia. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about one of Amazon's games. Now, Amazon's games have been having a hard time. Crucible was a strange case where it came out of closed beta, then went back into closed beta, and eventually got canceled and refunded, and it wasn't great. So let's talk about their MMO that they're working on, New World, and we can go over to an update that they put up on their website where they say, we've been hard at work on compelling endgame features we believe are important to include at launch. These features won't be ready for the spring timeframe that we had communicated. With that in mind, we will release New World on August 31st, 2021. With this extra time, we'll be able to add these substantial improvements while polishing and fine-tuning the whole game. We'll continue our alpha in the months to come and expand testing by standing up EU servers on March 30th, 2021. Our closed beta will begin on July 20th, 2021. If you've pre-ordered New World, you'll have access to the closed beta test. Now, I don't really see a lot of people talk about New World much, and a lot of these Amazon games kind of fly under the radar, but obviously, they don't want to pull another Crucible. Like, if Amazon's going to give you time, you know what? You take it, you delay the game, you move on from there and get it done, and hopefully in good shape for their launch later on this year. I am curious why they opted to go for a larger game like an MMO rather than try to just come together and create a smaller, I guess just easier to kind of maintain and figure out and all that with the new team. Why don't you just do a smaller game? Then it's very odd to me that they went for like one of the harder games to create balance and then maintain going forward. But here they are trying it, and hopefully it doesn't end up like Crucible, because Amazon Games really does need a win. And before we go over to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, which I did post up after the Nintendo Direct was announced, so it gave me a chance to ask a question about the Direct, where I said, does Nintendo mention Metroid in tomorrow's Direct? 36% of you said yes, at least one Metroid game will be shown. Wow, no confidence in the Metroid franchise for this Direct. 64% of you said no, Metroid will be saved for another Direct. Direct. You know what? It's Metroid's anniversary year too, so I think we need something. Nintendo needs to throw us a bone here with this whole Metroid situation. We've been waiting patiently for Metroid Prime 4, so Metroid Prime Trilogy? Let me off the hook here with that? Okay, maybe a 2D Metroid, just something. You know what? Now that Directs are back on the table, maybe they do give us Metroid Prime Trilogy now. Just get us ready to go for Metroid Prime 4 that maybe they talk about at the end of this year in like a September or an October Direct. Get 2022 set up really nicely with that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from William saying, xCloud coming to browsers is huge, opens up the possibility of utilizing older used PC parts to make a dedicated Xbox streaming machine for less than a console, a Mac iOS device, or maybe even a Fire Stick. I think Microsoft will eventually have some little dongle that you buy from them. It is just a streaming stick. You plug it in and it works through xCloud. And that would be a great idea to get something that would be $50 or $60 less. Maybe it gets to a point where you buy an Xbox controller in store and it's just part of it. It's like a little stick that comes with it and it's like $70 or $80. That would be a great way to get these pieces of hardware into people's homes and get them signed up for xCloud and Game Pass Ultimate that many of us already have anyway because it's just part of the service. It's very different from Stadia where you knowingly and willingly are signing up for just a streaming service. I think a lot of people see it as more convenient to have it just added on to a service you already own. But yeah, I absolutely think Microsoft's going to find their way into smart TVs and sell their own little very cheap dongles that work with Xbox controllers. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Well, there's the Nintendo Direct happening later on today. Let me know your best thoughts and predictions around what could be in that presentation down below. And also, what do you think about Microsoft's newest headset they announced? Are you interested, especially at the price and all of the features they described? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.